Detroit's emergency manager Kevyn Orr did sit down with reporters from both newspapers this week. So what has he been doing for the first month or so on the job?
I think we're going to look at the consent agreement. I have always said that that's sort of the roadmap for what we need to look at. That was negotiated and agreed to a year ago. Of the 21 points, none of them have been achieved, including the past 4 weeks that I've been here. I'm going to start looking at that fairly quickly. My understanding is that all parties had reviewed that and had agreed to it, and that is still live. I think I'm going to do some pretty hard look at cities' public safety issues. I mean, of recently I've had to take some positions on advice of counsel and consultants to preserve the city's rights and the emergency manager's rights as a matter of law. I don't want that to appear to anyone in public safety to be an expression of hostility towards their concerns and their needs, which I'm sensitive to. But I have to, as I've said before, to some of the public safety unions, I have to take positions I need to take for legal reasons. But please don't let that constitute in any way any hostility towards the common sense and humane issues that we need to address for public safety.
Okay, so I think last week I complained that we hadn't heard from him yet since he took office, and so now we heard from him a little bit.
He heard you.
Well, there you go. See the power we have here on MiWeek. So, satisfied with what he talked about?
Well, I mean, it wasn't all that revelatory. I mean, he did surface, which is, I guess, a good thing. People have been waiting for that. But I suspect what Kevyn Orr is working on are things that he can't really come out and spend a whole lot of time talking about. At least I hope that's the case.
Like what?
I hope he is working on restructuring the debt, working with the private creditors on a deal to get out from under this just crushing debt. And that's not something you talk about publicly every day. Those are very delicate, sensitive negotiations, and you'll hear about those when a deal's reached, I expect.
Yeah, well, there's also, though, some low-hanging fruit that he was talking about in the clip there. You know, things that were in the consent agreement that everybody said a year ago, let's go do this, and a lot of them are still undone. And so I think it's reasonable to expect that he should be out there pretty soon saying, well, here's the list of those things, and here's how many I can tick off in the, in the first 3 or 4 months. So we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, there is a decision this week in the scandal surrounding former Metro Airport CEO Turkia Mullin. An arbitrator ruled the airport board was not justified in firing her and awarded her $712,000. And so this was a saga that played out over the last year. Well, she's got the money now, and so now it's a done deal. Were you surprised by the arbiter's decision?
Yeah, in a way I was. I mean, clearly she lied on her paperwork going in to get this job. That should have been reason to justify her firing, but clearly she was fired because they got caught out at the airport board on what they were trying to do here. This puts a real dollar figure on Wayne County's friends and family plan. Voters can look at this, because Bob Ficano is going to have to face him next year. They can look at this and say, wow, $750,000 to someone who was clearly a Ficano crony. He was trying to put her in place at the airport so he'd have more control of the airport and give her a fat job. She was unqualified, and taxpayers, airline passengers get stuck with the bill.
So these are also questions that Bob Ficano is still going to have to face then.
Oh, I think so. I think if you read that arbitrator's report, what they're saying is, I mean, they're saying, yeah, the fix was in from the beginning to give her the job. She was given information that no other candidate would have had. She had an opportunity to know what the interview process was going to be like. She knew what the requirements were going to be before they opened it up. Bob Ficano set it all up for her to get it. That, certainly would strike anybody as
should that be a criminal
unethical,
offense?
But it's not a crime.
Should it be? I mean,
I don't think so.
Doesn't it fall within that? You're orchestrating this scam basically on the public. Why isn't that fraud?
Well, I think if we had a tougher ethics ordinance in Wayne County, we might be able to talk about how to prevent that.
But wouldn't it
comes down to the commissioners, though, right?
It's not fraud because it's just, I mean, it literally is just helping out somebody with.
It was more than that. It wasn't, I'm going to call my friend, maybe he can help you. It was a conspiracy from start to, it was a conspiracy from start to finish to put her into this job, a job she wasn't qualified, and to subvert a process that was in place to do a national hunt.
But there's
Stephen.
also a separate question about, the one question is whether it's illegal. The other is whether it was a sufficient cause to dismiss her under the contract that she had. And it clearly wasn't that. And that's
According
what
to
the
the
arbitrator was saying, is that you can't fire somebody for this. That's not just cause. And so you owe her some money.
And so Ed said there's no appeal. So who pays for that? Are we going to see that coming out of parking, or what are we going to?
Well, it's airline passengers. The airline's wholly funded by fees. So yeah, you're going to see that in increased costs at the airport. So.
All right. Well, the latest casualty in Lansing budget talks, the film incentives. The House approved a plan that would take that $25 million, instead fund the road improvement projects. We've been trying to figure out where the money's going to come for the road improvement project, but I have a feeling a lot of people are going to start yelling about this.
Not
Right?
enough. He wants $1 billion. They're talking about
Yeah,
$25
$25 million?
This was for local road projects, very
Right, that's
specific
right.
project, and it will end up putting a lot more people to work and doing a lot more good for these communities than giving $25 million to a mega-rich Hollywood studio to pay Leonardo DiCaprio.
You just
No.
don't like Ryan
I was just to say
Gosling,
Ryan
that's all it is.
Gosling. If he
Well,
could come,
whatever.
maybe
You
perhaps
don't
do
like
some
him.
of those road projects.
$25 million in film incentives is not enough to create an industry. I'm not sure there is enough money to create an industry. So put that money to better use. Let these billionaire studio owners pay for their own films.
There you go.
I was a fan of the tax credits. I think
Yeah.
the economic argument behind them was always a little suspect. It is about buzz. It is about trying to create opportunities for sort of ancillary industries around the film industry to come here and take root. We're not doing that now, though. Clearly, the governor has said we're going in a different direction, and so I think you have to think about what sense does it make to keep putting.
Even have just that little bit here, because we're
I'm
not
sure.
competing with there are other states that have
Yeah,
much
I mean,
better
it's-
incentives, correct?
Film incentives only make sense if you're all in, and there are some states that do that, and I think they would make the argument that in their minds it pays off, even if you can't make the numbers add up on the balance sheet. We've decided that it doesn't add up, so maybe we ought to really think about. Well, we're not going to do this.
$25 million wasn't doing
That's
what
not enough.
It wasn't creating an industry as they intended.
Now, I
So
think
put it to
didn't
use.
the Senate has $50 million in for the credits in its budget. I can't remember what the governor's.
Governor
What
was
their
at
proposal
25.
was.
Was he at
kept it
25?
25. So where do we have to? When is the deadline for the budget in Lansing?
Well, the
Technically,
governor,
not till October.
but the governor wants to have it done by June 1st. He has had the last two done by June 1st.
Yeah.
hasn't he? So
Pretty close.
I would expect he'll have this done by June 1st. There's some areas of contention in there that, they'll work out, but I would expect by the time we head for Mackinac, he'll have a budget in place.
That's right, and we will have the legislators will be on Mackinac. Last year they were not.
They were not there.
They were
last
not.
year.
They were busy working on the budget, so it'll be interesting to hear from them.